Okay, so now that we've taken a look, or hopefully we've taken a look at just basic application launching from a user perspective, I want to show you something that's far more self-reflexive and self-hosting and should start to reveal some of the hidden power in this system about what it's really doing. This is probably a little bit more for developers than it is for end users. And so I'm just going to load up a launcher, and I'm going to show you a tool. It's a generic tool. You can think of it as a custom tool. A tool that FIE is developing for its own purposes within the company. Okay, so I'm going to go into FIE. And under Applications here, under Help, I have CV Help. Now, you don't have to worry about what CV Help does. We'll get to that later. But here it is. Here's CV Help, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's getting a whole bunch of help text from the context variable system, which you don't really know about yet because I haven't told you about it. And it's displaying it, and it's all well and good. All right, so that's CV Help. Again, a custom tool that this company is deploying to its workers and its users in a very specific way. Okay, the IT department is developing it. Very good. Real exciting, right? All right, so I want to show you something but more interesting, which is, all right, well, the IT department for this company is developing this. It is a project within the company in and of itself. That's where you start to get a little self-reflexive. It's a project for managing projects done at this company. So as a result, if I go into FIE and go into projects, I actually have a project called CV Help, and it's the project for working on CV Help. So we'll go in there. And here's where things get kind of cool, which is that if I run CV Help from within its own development project, it's going to do something a little different. It's going to take a moment here. It loads up Unity 3D, which is a development environment which is usually used for video game development, but in this case I'm using it for cross-platform development. And this is actually the source code, the actual project for working on CV Help. And in fact, if I just run it inside its own development environment here, you'll see it pops up. Now it's a little different. It's bright red. And the reason for that is because, of course, I've been working on it. The version of CV Help that we just ran a moment ago is the fully supported, tested version 0.1.0 version of CV Help. But of course, I'm a developer, and I've been working on this brand new version or versioned up version of CV Help. It's got a great new feature. The feature is that it's red. I'm really original here, right? And if you look at the deployment configuration that I put in here, I've changed the version from 0.10 to 0.20. Company's FIE tool CV Help. That's all well and good. So what I'm going to do is just tell it to deploy the application because I consider this thing good, and it's time to deploy it to the company. All right, so deploy application. So what it's doing right now is it's compiling release and debug versions of CV Help for Linux, for Windows, and for OS X. And it's deploying them to the sort of application deployment system within FIE CAC. And it's going to take a moment to go through all three. Okay, so it's finished up here, and I'm just going to get out of here. And we're going to run another launcher. Now, I just deployed it, but that doesn't mean I have actually set it as default for other users to use it. Just because it's technically deployed to the system doesn't mean that anyone at a systems administration level or project management level has sort of authorized it for use on their project. Just to prove that, I'm going to go into FIE again. Applications Help, CV Help, and lo and behold, I will get this version with the nice gray background, which is probably a little bit more pleasing to the eye. This is version 0.10, which is the proper version, and that's what it should do because no one's authorized to release the new one yet. However, since I am systems administrator here, I am going to load up something that you haven't seen yet. This is not really an introduction to, but I just want to show you how this roughly works. Within the company, I'm going to manage the company's choices, the 0.10 version of the company. And then in here I have the CV Help choice I'm going to edit. And as you see right here and now, at the company level, we've decided that everyone by default should be running the release version 0.1.0 of CV Help. Well, I'm just going to change that to 0.20, effectively make the decision that now anyone within the company, unless a project or a workspace has overridden it, should now start running version 0.20 of CV Help. I'm going to run another launcher. Go into the company, and we'll just launch CV Help again. And lo and behold, it is now automatically launching version 0.20, and it's nice and bright and red and actually kind of ugly, but you get the point. It's very easy to tell that we are definitely running the new version. Let's say that we had a problem with this, that that was a mistaken release. We got to roll the entire company back to 010. It's just as easy as it was to flip the company over to 020. We just go into the company, manage the company's choices, go find the CV help choice, and roll it back. Say OK. Close all of that, and now, lo and behold, we'll just run it one more time. And we get the nice, much better gray version, older version. Good thing we rolled back. Another interesting point here, just to show you, it's not as simple as just going up and down individual versions of individual things. The way that I got the development project for the application itself to run the editor in development mode rather than actually run the application is very similar to what I just did for the company, which is if I go into that project and then I go into the project managers and the project choices, it's the same tool being used slightly differently, and into the release choices, we'll see that within that specific project I have defined an overridden CV help choice. In this project, we're using a different version of CV help than we are company-wide. It works in an override system where in this case, there's a company-level choice, and then a project can choose to override it individually. And so if we go take a look at this, instead of being a release or a debug mode, it's in development mode. Oops, sorry, it's in development mode. And it's in version 010, which is just telling it which workspace to load. It is in this way that I could have, in a very similar way, on some other specific project, even though the company may still be on version 010, an individual project could choose to go to 020, or it could choose to test it. In fact, not only an individual project, but an individual workspace could choose to use a new version of a newer or an older version of the tool at any point in time. And so you can start to see how there's another similar system in here where a project or a workspace can go into an alternative mode temporarily and also make a new version request. And so you can see how the entire development, testing, deployment system is actually being taken into account by the company workflow and digital asset management system itself. It understands how to develop, test, deploy, roll back, and release itself and all of its constituent tools. It's completely comprehensive of how a company works in a digital space, right down to developing its own software tools, which is something that's very different than what you get in sort of standard operating system-based scenarios where they sort of just leave it up to the systems administrators and the IT departments to figure out how it is that we're supposed to responsibly release and manage tools and which users are using which versions of what tools. And we know what kind of problem that is because one person uses the new version of Word on a document and versions out the file format, and suddenly everyone in the department now has to go up to the new version of Word, regardless of whether or not it was a good thing or not.